SOS from the kids.
Please change the story, rewrite the plot. This beautiful love cannot be lost. Stop hurting our planet like you don't care. There's only one world for us to share.
This is an SOS from the kids. All the grown-ups take note of this. Wake up and see that you must make a change. The riches you seek will all be washed away. This is an SOS from the kids.
Please change the story, rewrite the plot. This beautiful love cannot be lost. Stop hurting our planet like you don't care. There's only one world for us to share.
They only want their cream, always needing oil for feeding their machines. We must care about the animals, care about the trees. I need help from you, and you'll get help from me.
Please change the story.
Change the story.
Rewrite the plot. This beautiful love cannot be lost. Cannot be lost. Stop hurting our planet like you don't care. There's only one world for us to share.
This is an SOS from the kids.
You can do better than this. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed to the SOS from the Kids Choir, an absolutely fantastic opening to our event today. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the UK Pavilion and to our event where you will hear from this outstanding panel that we've assembled. We're going to talk to you about some of the key things that are in the strategy that we will be announcing fully later on at the Together for Tomorrow Education and Environment Ministers Summit, which is taking place at 4 p.m. in the Penny Fan Room. Do come along to that too. But today we're going to focus on two particular aspects of the strategy. And we have, as I say, the most fantastic and inspiring panel of speakers who are going to talk to you today, starting with the Secretary of State for Education, Nadhim Zahawi, who I think may need very little introduction to you. Following on, we have got colleagues from, this is the sort of thing I have nightmares about, got the wrong piece of paper. After that, we're going to hear from Professor Ed Hawkins, who's a leading climate scientist in the National Centre for Atmospheric Science at the University of Reading, and one of the lead authors of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change 6th Assessment Report. What he's probably best known for, though, is what you see on his face, which is an incredibly stylish face covering showing the heat stripes that we've all got familiar with. And it's hard to remember a time when we hadn't seen some of those iconic images, but that is something that Ed gave us as a really visual way of thinking about the warming of the planet. We're then going to hear from Claire Mattison Cbe, who's the Executive Director of Engagement for the Natural History Museum. And she's one of the main reasons why the museum reaches over 20 million people each year through its on-site, online and tourism activities. Claire's a member of the Natural Environment Research Council of the UKRI and the Deputy Chair of EAT, which is a global foundation for healthy and sustainable food systems. We're then going to hear via video from Professor Sir Partha Dasgupta, who's the Frank Ramsey Professor Emeritus of Economics at the University of Cambridge. He's authored the recent independent report commissioned by the Treasury on the economics of biodiversity. We're also going to hear, although perhaps more through questions, from Daniel and from Noor. Daniel is a Year 13 student from Yorkshire who's currently studying biology, chemistry and economics. He works with his college's senior leadership team to reduce their carbon footprint and implement new green initiatives to reaffirm the college's commitment to the climate cause. And Noor is a sixth former from Oxford who's been involved in climate activism for over 2 years. She's an active member of her local community efforts to tackle climate change, championing her community to recycle more efficiently. And I'm really pleased that we've got young voices on our panel and that we can hear from everybody today. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to the Secretary of State for Education, Nadhim Zahawi.
Thank you very much, Susan, and hello, everyone. I'm truly delighted to see so many people here today from all around the world, but I'm especially pleased to see so many young faces, and especially Danielle and Noor with us on the panel. The Prime Minister told COP26 opening session that the average age of the world leaders gathered was over 60, and the average age of the global population is just under 30. It's not lost on this Secretary of State. I have a real duty to equip our young people with the knowledge and skills to really face down the problems that they will meet. Chief amongst those will be a changing climate. I know many of you already are working hard to raise awareness in your schools or colleges or within your communities, even in your own homes. You already are showing incredible leadership and resourcefulness. And I see and I want to really congratulate you for the work that you're doing and to also learn from what you are doing here and scale it up around the country. I know you have a burning desire to conserve and protect our precious planet, as we just heard in that wonderful song. The scale of the challenge is so great that I expect you might feel a little bit powerless, but I'm here really to deliver a message to you that you really are not. And I will try and explain why, because today what I am announcing is a plan to develop a new Climate Leaders Award in conjunction with you. We're going to co-create it with young people. This is going to recognize and celebrate the work that young people are doing to protect our planet. We're going to be working directly to design this with young people. Only if we work together will we be able, I think, to meet the greater challenges beyond awards and beyond the work that we are all gathered here to celebrate. I also know that many people are already working with our nurseries, with our schools, with our colleges, with our universities, and the award will recognize their efforts too. I'm going to make sure this award has real clout. It will stand out to universities, it'll stand out to further education, and it'll stand out to employers as a significant achievement. And I hope some of the winners use the award as a springboard to a career in greener, more sustainable careers. Your work, their work, will be crucial in the years ahead. We've recently published a Green Jobs, Skills and Industries paper. It shows how people can retrain and upskill and reskill to apply for jobs in the green economy. Let me try and sort of bring it to life for you, just give you an example. There are a wide range of green apprenticeships now, where we got them up and running. We want to scale them further. They're serving the planet and, of course, the industries of tomorrow, from nuclear engineers, wind turbine maintenance, and, of course, research scientists. In this way, we are preparing to not just, I think, build back better, but we're going to build back greener. Today, I'm also very proud to announce that we are going to set up a new virtual national education nature park. If you take all of our nurseries, schools, colleges, universities, and put them together, they will occupy a huge chunk of land, roughly the size of 2 Birminghams, actually slightly bigger than the size of 2 Birminghams. Now imagine the equivalent of 80,000 football pitches. I hope not all cut grass, but the equivalent in actual size and space being used to teach millions of children, to connect them with nature, to get them outside and to inspire them into jobs and passions which will be part of saving the planet. We will connect up the space through a technology platform to monitor and improve the local biodiversity and community. So young people will learn about geospatial planning and biodiversity, and hopefully will load up in real time so other young people can see their work and be inspired by it. Even the smallest and most challenging urban sites can benefit from this and will benefit from this. I want more and more children and young people to be regularly logging their data about how they are improving the biodiversity, learning the importance of numeracy in understanding nature, biodiversity, and of course the analysis of all that incredible data. And I want to work with the best, most cutting-edge technology companies to support this transformative project. So I am really sending out a call to the great technology companies, whether you're a startup, mid-size, or a large company, to come and help us on this transformative project. Of course, although people traditionally think of the UK as a green and pleasant land, I am upset to say that it is one of the most nature-depleted countries in the world, and we're going to change that. And I'm delighted to hear that Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland will be exploring these projects too, and I hope we can all collaborate on this in the future, and of course take it to other parts of the world as well. We have committed to leaving the environment much improved as a government. We committed to protecting 30% of our land and sea by 2030. We have just this week announced a huge investment across the world in nature, in forests, in biodiversity, and people. My sector, the brilliant education sector, the brilliant teachers, support workers in the sector, I am certain will play their part and impart the values of the natural world on young people from the start. Thank you for having me here, and thank you for listening to me.
Secretary of State, thank you very much. We're now going to watch a very short video that just sets out how these two initiatives are going to work.
Education will play a critical role in tackling the climate crisis. With more than 16 million people in education in the UK, we can make sure that current and future generations are given the right knowledge and skills for a world affected by climate change. The Sustainability and Climate Change Strategy sets out how we will work together to deliver excellence in education and skills for a changing world, achieve net zero, build climate resilience, and create a better environment for future generations. Some of this work will be done through the National Education Nature Park. The combined size of the education estate, including nurseries, schools, colleges and universities, has the potential to help us achieve our goals. For example, there are roughly 24,000 schools in England alone, covering an area more than twice the size of Birmingham. Much of this land is not built on, presenting opportunities for change. Through the National Education Nature Park, schools, nurseries and colleges can identify pieces of land within their own grounds and use them to improve biodiversity. Pupils and students can get active and enhance their skills by growing new trees and plants, creating new wildlife habitats, and learning about the importance of nature and a balanced ecosystem. If we only improved a small proportion of the estate, think of all the insects, butterflies, bees and birds that would sustain. They can also learn about reducing emissions through in-school challenges like cutting food waste, saving energy, and using less plastic. By taking part and leading change in their community, schools, nurseries, colleges and students can earn credits that count towards a new, prestigious Climate Leaders Award. By nurturing children and young people's connection to nature, we can plant a seed that will grow throughout their lives, inspiring their passions and career choices, and helping to preserve the environment for the generations that follow.
Thanks very much indeed. We're now going to hear from Professor Ed Hawkins, who's going to talk to us a bit about his experiences in becoming the climate scientist that he is today and give his perspectives on the Nature Park and the Climate Leaders Award initiatives. Ed.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me to be here today. It's a pleasure to be here and talking to you. So, myself and my colleagues at the University of Reading, we're committed to driving and supporting the development of opportunities that directly improve the knowledge and understanding of young people, enabling them to take action and help tackle both the climate and ecological crises. So we very much welcome the initiatives announced today by the Secretary of State. Getting children engaged with their environment early and in a sustained way throughout their learning journey is vital. This will help build skills and knowledge to build a genuine connection with the natural world and develop an appreciation of our impact upon it and how to protect it. The initiatives announced today have the potential to provide a myriad of opportunities for students, teachers and others involved within our schools to learn about the role we all play in caring better for the environment around us and to provide tangible opportunities to put that learning into action. Our experiences when we are young help shape our future, and our teachers can help spark lifelong passions. So for me, that was physics. I had amazing physics and maths teachers when I was young, and that is one reason I'm now a scientist and a climate scientist. Although I did start my career as an astronomer, but I soon realised that actually I wanted to look down on the planet rather than look up from it. And perhaps if I'd had more involvement in the environment and climate at school, I would have made that decision a bit earlier. But climate is where I am now. And climate is much broader than just physics. It covers all the sciences and beyond. It is critical to empower the next generations with the knowledge and skills they'll need for their future lives and careers. And that starts by sparking interests at schools. And those sparks can help inform choices and change behaviours. We're already experiencing the effects of climate change. And so the young people are going to experience the consequences for the rest of their lives. And preparing our children with the skills they need is a complex and multifaceted exercise. It's going to require collaboration and support from many, many different sectors. And the initiatives announced today are a great start that will provide opportunity to integrate development of skills and real-life experiences of the complexity and beauty of nature. So we hope that the announcements today represent the beginning of a shift to embed a focus on climate and the environment across all schools and colleges, and this is something that University of Reading is looking forward to supporting. Thank you very much.
Ed, thank you very much indeed. We're now going to have a short video from Professor Sir Partha Dasgupta.
If we care about our common future, we all need to appreciate the infinitely beautiful tapestry of nature's processes and forms, and how we depend on them. The National Education Nature Park will engage young people with the natural world, involve them directly in increasing biodiversity on their school estate, and develop important skills, such as biodiversity mapping, data collection, and analysis. The Climate Leaders Award will allow us to celebrate and recognize schools, colleges, and individuals who work to rediscover their connection with nature and help to establish a sustainable future for us all.
Museum. Claire, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone. It's such a pleasure to be here. It's such an important initiative in the Natural History Museum. We've been really delighted to support the Department for Education to develop what really will be a unique network of nature parks, and I think an incredibly important award that children in the future will look back at and be really proud to say that I was a climate leader. Just last week at the Natural History Museum in the gardens, I don't know if you know those gardens, we have a wildlife garden there, and a little child came into the garden. That child was called Alex, and actually the child said, "Where's the nature?" And it was kind of a surprising question, and we kind of thought, well, it's actually all around you, but that when we actually chatted, that it was actually not the lions, the tigers, the things they saw on television, hadn't really kind of thought that actually all around them was actually nature. And so I think this initiative is really important, because this initiative will mean that every young person, that child, can notice nature, can find nature, can study nature, and can care for nature, and become young scientists if they want to, following in your footsteps, really making a difference for themselves, for the world. And I think there are so many questions and so many activities. They'll be able to find out which habitat and species are present in their own grounds, and perhaps even more importantly, which ones are missing and why. They'll be able to use some of the latest technologies developed by scientists, some of our own scientists, acoustic monitoring, actually listening to the sounds of nature, pushing that through different technology, finding out what species there are. Environmental DNA, taking soil samples, air samples, finding out what is in that. Walking around the school perhaps and being asking questions like, does being near a road affect and impact the lichen that's growing in the playground or on the tree? Does the material that this building is made of influence the temperature? And if it's influencing the temperature, does that mean something different is growing around it? So think of all the questions, all of these different school and all of their different grounds. Think of when you were at school and what was outside in your playground, and how we can transform that to not only be good for nature, but good for young people and good for education. And I think what's really, really important about this is sometimes with science it can feel a bit abstract. It can feel like you're just learning facts, learning knowledge. And I think what this initiative will do will actually bring science to life. It will make it really real for young people. They'll be able to actually think scientifically, but with things right there, out there, in their own grounds. They'll be able to test their own ideas. They'll be able to realise that their curiosity actually is something which is to be valued, and actually something that we should celebrate, and actually will help us answer some of the big questions. And also it'll enable them to be part of a community, working together, solving problems. And I think, as the Secretary of State said earlier, given the really sad fact that here in the UK we have one of the most depleted nature nations, just think, for that child, where is the nature? Hopefully, if that child is part of this initiative, they'll be able to look back and say, there's the nature, and I helped that nature flourish, and I know more about nature because of it. So we're so thrilled with this, and we know it's going to be a great success.
Thank you, Claire. And I should just say the department is absolutely delighted to be working with the Natural History Museum on this initiative, and you've helped us not just to work with you, but to draw others in. So we're really keen that in the next stage of the work we continue to build these proposals collaboratively and bring others in. So I'm now going to hand Daniel and Noor, I don't know which order you want to go in, but I wanted to hand over to you to talk a little bit about what you've been doing, but also if you want to ask questions of the panel or give us some challenge, then please feel free.
Thank you. Thank you to the Secretary of State for kindly inviting me and Noor to attend such an important event. As a 17-year-old, having the opportunity to come to such an important international summit is really something. And I think, I could argue that this is probably one of the most inclusive and accessible COP conferences we've had, and we're very happy to be here. And I'd also like to thank Sharon as well, who's sort of organised it all for us when we had our meetings up and coming, and she's done a really fantastic job too. And I really welcome the remarks the Secretary of State's made about the new Climate Leaders Award. As a student studying biology and chemistry myself, I know that the Secretary of State studied chemical engineering himself at university. I know the importance of this whole cause, of the whole climate crisis, and I know that certainly at my school and Greenhead College in Yorkshire and other schools in Yorkshire, we are really committed to this, and I think this is really going to promote that and really showcase that and motivate students just like me to get more actively involved in such initiatives. And I don't know if Noor has anything else she'd like to add to that.
Yeah, so I'm really lucky to go to a school where we actually have quite a green curriculum. Our teachers are quite active and kind of introducing that into our curriculum. And this week I've met loads of other students from around the UK who don't have that, and that makes me really sad. It's really important that our schools help us prepare us for the world, and that at the moment that includes helping us prepare for a world where the climate crisis is here and present. And it's really important that we certainly are inspired, and that adults around us help us to feel like it's that we can do something, and protecting sort of our local nature areas is one of the things we can do. So I really welcome this award.
Daniel and Noor, thank you, and I'm really keen that you stay and be part of answering questions on the panel. So we're going to move to some questions from the room now. We've got, I can see a few hands starting to go up. Dr. Pope, did you want to come in?
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you very much for a very inspiring presentation. My name's Adi and I work for Esri, and we are involved in geospatial mapping, and I think there's a huge opportunity to connect biology and geography to relevant digital skills to turn the next generation of students, pull them through into sort of a green economy through a green pathway. And have you got any comment to make about how this award could be bigger than it is into a green pathway?
Thank you for that. Well, you're coming to see me as soon as we go back to sanctuary buildings, because we need people who are involved in building and have the expertise in the technology, because I think this is something that, one, I want to do quickly, because let's not get, let perfection be the enemy of good. Let's build it and collaborate, and you will find it will grow and grow and grow, right? And I think, without sounding overly optimistic on this, I think other nations will begin to join us on this. We can imagine not only children in our schools, in our nurseries, in our colleges, our universities being able to look at, learn, scale up how you do really good biodiversity, how you do work on spatial mapping, right? And learn from that. But we could also then co-opt other countries on a similar platform. I don't think it's in a world where technology can scale so rapidly, it is not beyond us that we can literally connect the schools of the world, the colleges of the world, the universities of the world together on this journey. And so I absolutely agree with you. The one thing I would say is speed. And some of you will know I was the vaccine minister before becoming the Secretary of State for Education. And we built the equivalent of as Brigadier Phil Prosser put it, a national supermarket chain in about a month, and grew it 20% every week. So we can do this. And let's keep that sort of momentum and urgency that we developed because of a global pandemic. Let's turn that into a silver lining from all the suffering and horrific stuff that came out of this horrible virus into something truly great for future generations. So you're going to come and see me as soon as we're back in the office.
Well, we would be delighted to speak to you about how we can support your project and show you how we're already working with 3,000 schools to show pupils that school is about learning relevant skills which have relevancy in both higher education and the workplace, and making them the agent for change and allowing them to ask and answer their own questions about not just biodiversity but everything. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. We've got lots of hands going up. Lady over there, who I think you were first with the hand. Thank you. If people could pass each other the mic, that would be very kind.
Thank you. I'm Lucy Alderslow, Children in Permaculture Coordinator for the Permaculture Association. I think it's wonderful. There's so much need in our schools for all our schools to be completely transformed and completely including biodiversity throughout and stop them being these tarmac and green deserts of 2 inches of grass. So I welcome any possibility of increasing and improving biodiversity. The schools need to be zero carbon ASAP. They need to be including renewable energy generation from schools, from your age group. You can all be monitoring the renewable energy electricity generation, integrating that into all of areas of your curriculum through maths, through all your sciences. I think that's wonderful. What I want to know is, at the moment, the way things are in schools, there is a nature garden, and that is 2 meters by 4 meters max. Sometimes it's just a plant pot. How do we make sure that your National Education Nature Park is not just a plant pot or one raised bed in the corner, and it genuinely is integrated throughout school grounds, rooftops, embedded in nature like the Ballet Green School?
Let me have a go at answering that. And we all fall back on our own experiences and successes or failures. Sometimes you can learn from both. One, in terms of the school estate, so all of our new school builds, we're doing 50 new schools a year, 500 over the next 10 years will be net zero operational. I went to visit a brilliant school in Coventry West Academy, 30, I think it's just over 30 million, 38 million, I think, pounds. It's actually being built in a factory near Coventry, and we are beginning now, because of the investment we're making, to really lead the world, and it's becoming, I think, very soon an export opportunity for us of how we build schools that are net zero operational and fit for purpose for the future. We're also working with my old Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy, on what I hope will become the ability to sort of help schools that already are wanting to do better on energy consumption with these energy pods that we will begin to roll out. If they work well, we will scale them. So there's lots of work that we are undertaking on the school estate. Your very good question is, how do you go from, as you put it, sort of 2 meter square nature dot, if I can describe it as that, to something much more ambitious. I think you do it through learning what good looks like. And the way you do that is by all of us. This is the wisdom of the group or the crowd or the collective of our schools, colleges, universities and nurseries. Because what is great about humanity is we're great at mimicking. I spent 10 years of my life observing human behavior. The reason humanity has actually progressed, and there's much more to go, of course, is because we're very good. When we see something good, we will attempt to replicate it. And I think this infrastructure that we're going to put together will be a catalyst for showing school leaders what does good look like, and how ambitious can I be if I am in a school that may be slightly restricted, but I could do more on my roof, or in a school where, like West Coventry Academy, have 30 plus acres of land, and what can I do with that as well? So I think actually this will be a great catalyst for scaling up and being much more ambitious than we are today.
Can I just add a little to that?
Go for it.
And I think absolutely critical to kind of invest in that infrastructure, and I think the other thing is around investing in the teachers through continued professional development of those teachers, because a lot of the teachers that I speak to really want to do this, but actually want to know how best to do it. So, you know, we've got great things like the National STEM Learning Centre. Then we've got places like in the museums, in other places all over the country where teachers can come and actually experiment themselves and do things themselves and find out themselves, how can I take this back into my school? So I think that network concept is really, really important. Invest in the infrastructure, invest in the teachers, and work as a network to get it done.
Thank you. Should we just go over there?
I just wanted to, I was so pleased to hear you speaking about the teachers. So I'm Dr. Jess Tipton, I'm a teacher, and I run the UK School Sustainability Network, which is where Danielle and Noor are coming from, and we've got 20 students here in Glasgow today, all from different schools. So I'm speaking on behalf of a large network of mostly secondary school teachers from all over the UK, hundreds of them. Our WhatsApp group is going from 6 a.m. till midnight. So teachers really want to do this stuff, really want to do it. So passionate. They have the expertise and the knowledge. They're from all subjects, English, modern languages, science, non-teaching. They don't have the time. They don't have the resource. There's such a danger of burnout. But they really, so it's the time, off timetable, the support, so that they can do this and that it is sustainable, ironically. But there's real appetite out there all over the place in all different types of schools. But there does need to be from the top, you know, an allowance and capacity building, so that they can deliver this and work with all these wonderful students who are also doing it all in their spare time on top of their studies. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed. Do you want me to come in on that one?
I don't want to hog the microphone. I think you're absolutely right. And one of the things, you know, as a new Secretary of State, I want to look at is how can I give teachers some time back. If we look at, you know, what did we do through the pandemic that worked well, and how can we learn from it and scale it? So the Oak Academy resources, how teachers are using those resources to, you know, build really interesting, engaging lesson material. How, you know, what more can I do? Teachers are working all hours, and I want to just again reiterate my thanks to teachers, to teaching assistants, to the workforce and the support staff, because they've gone above and beyond. One, when we had to lock down, to make sure that students got the you know, whatever we could deliver quickly online. And then, of course, since we've reopened, to keep schools open, 99.9% of schools are open, and it really is testament to the quality of the profession and the determination and commitment to the profession. But your point is well made, and it's something that I'm constantly trying to find ways to try and help from the centre and learn from best practice across the system of how we can do this.
Thanks very much indeed. Got lots more hands up. Yes. I'm going vaguely in order so that you can hand the microphone around.
Hi there, I'm Alex Green here from Ashton and the Let's Go Zero campaign. We really welcome these initiatives. They're really exciting and great to see that work, and also to see the new strategic direction that the department's going into and the work going on in the teams here. So really great to see that, and we're happy to be working with you on that. The question from my side is really, we know that our existing school buildings are challenging in many ways and not always fit for purpose. And there's a lot of potential there to be leaders and really inspire a lot of change across society. So how will the department be looking to get that strategic funding? How are they going to be prioritising the retrofit of buildings?
Thanks very much. Thank you, and I mean we spoke this morning. I think the work that you're doing is absolutely brilliant. We've got, as the Secretary of State said, we've got a really clear promise on all of our new buildings being net zero from here on in, and that's really significant. But as you say, the retrofitting of the existing estate in many ways is a harder, more complicated job, and we already have a set of funds across government that schools can access in order to do that. And I think the reflection that we've had as we've started to put the strategy together is that we need to make that easier. So we need to think harder about how we kind of bring schools together and how we make sure that they're getting access to the funding that is available for retrofit. And we'll be continuing to work on that as part of the next stages of the strategy.
Hi there, Matt Larsendorf from WWF. So really fantastic to hear these announced, and especially the nature park concept, which I'm a big fan of. I wanted to pick up on something that Noor said first of all, and then I'm also going to direct a question to our youth panel as well. But what Noor was saying about how she's had a really positive experience at her school, but of course not all schools are like that, and the same applies for the size and the sort of biodiversity value of their grounds. And you mentioned this, that you've got some schools with acres of grounds and huge potential, and it's already fantastic. And then you've got small, urban schools that are often, they even have to get a minibus out to a playing field that isn't theirs. And so I was just wondering how you might ensure an equity of access to the benefits that this program could bring, because it has the potential to be such a leveler in terms of nature experience. And I thought to enrich the answer to that question, I'd love to hear from Daniel and Noor about how their experience of their school grounds has had any kind of impact on perhaps why they're so interested in climate and sustainability now that they are here today.
Thanks very much. Should we hear from Daniel and Noor first?
Yeah. So my school ground, we don't have many green space in our school. However, we share, because I live in Oxford, we share a field with Oxford Brookes University, and that's kind of the biggest area in my site. And we have a great teacher. She's the kind of journalist lead, and she's a gardener. She spends a lot of time gardening around our site. And I think she's the real reason that a lot of kids at my school get a really good sort of exposure to the environment. She spends a lot of time and effort she spends most of her break times litter picking and things like that. And we have a gardening club and things like that. And that's sort of how we get our sort of exposure to the environment in our school.
And to add on that, Greenhead College is actually one of, I believe, 50 schools who have been given funding to embark on a capital development program. So we will be, we will have a new building for our science department, and it will be much more eco-friendly. The grounds will be made, to reduce our carbon footprint significantly. And I think it's a really great start to getting more schools towards that, just like Noor's, for example, who can have a lot of improvement. And I think that just overall, getting schools to do that is again going to encourage the youth involvement and the youth participation, so that in future, when we take the reins of government, it'll be much less of a challenge than it is now, and in terms might not even be much of a priority anymore, hopefully.
Thanks very much indeed. I don't think it's going to be that long till you take the reins of government. Secretary of State, do you want to answer the question about equity?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I guess one of the ways, and in fact, you've just sort of heard a perfect example from Noor, where a teacher, a school leader is being creative as to how they do this, although they don't have the sort of the land some other schools have. And my very strong inclination is that what you will get is the network effect, right? Because as we build this, and which is why I want to build it rapidly, and I don't want sort of perfection to be the enemy of good, right? And you will get, I think, inspirational teachers inviting other schools, because when you see stuff in real time going up, that collaboration, co-creation will be enhanced, which is why part of our thinking in the department, I mentioned it in my opening remarks, is how do we, as we connect up all these schools and these amazing technology companies that now can allow us to do this really cost effectively and rapidly. It's still costing a few million, but nevertheless, I think it's money well spent, because the upside of the collaboration will be, that you'll be leveraging in, will be much, much greater, because that's what human beings do overall. And I think that that ability from the department to lean in will make a huge difference.
Thanks very much indeed. Did you want to add anything?
Yeah, can I just say, it's a brilliant question, because I think part of it is almost having permission to sort of, break what is a concrete path or a tarmacked area. And at the Natural History Museum, we've got this very beautiful sort of area which is always kept really, really clean. It's pristine, and we've kind of given ourselves permission. And there were a few raised eyebrows and a few people, is that really a good idea? And we're going to let nature back in, and then we're going to work with local schools, with our scientists, to actually then see what happens by letting nature back in. And I hope by kind of showing, well, if a big national sort of place like the Natural History Museum can do that, working with schools, perhaps other people will then give themselves permission to actually just let nature back where previously it's been concreted over. So, that's how we're going to give it a go.
Thanks, Claire. Really powerful.
So, yeah, I'll just add, I think the equity point is absolutely critical. All of society is going to be affected by the transformations we're going to have to make over the coming decades. And so everybody needs to be involved in that conversation from the youth upwards. And so it's critically important that we involve everybody and that everyone has equal access, so they can all have the opportunity to pursue the new careers and jobs that are inevitably going to come.
Thank you very much indeed. At the back there.
Hello, my name is Bran Howell and I'm from the Eden Project in Cornwall. I just want to say this is really exciting, it's brilliant. And how can we and other organisations like us help?
So welcome.
Totally. We need you. And this is exactly what I was hoping will happen today. And this is exactly what I was talking about in the network effect, is that actually, and this goes beyond my expectations, that in this room, when we announce, people will actually put their hand up, like the gentleman here in the front, or you in the back, saying, look, how can we join in? How can we help? Because the expertise you have in the way the natural history has stepped up so brilliantly, I think is going to make this project not just, I hope, England or UK-wide, but I think we've got an opportunity to scale this for the world. And so many other countries, I think, will begin to join us on this journey. I think the young man as well next to you had a question.
My question, sorry, I'm Max from the University of Edinburgh. My question was, obviously climate change affects every aspect of our lives. I also particularly like the local and national kind of focus of the project, which is great. We had a panel discussion with students from Qatar yesterday, and they weren't that interested in the tundra in Siberia. They wanted to know about the desert in their region. So I can really see the value of that. My question was, is there going to be a look at adapting the curriculum to include a focus on the impacts of climate change in subjects that aren't just science-based or particularly focused on the environment? Will there be, for example, incorporation into history or into politics or into humanities subjects, or perhaps even thinking creatively, languages, something like that?
You go.
I'll do a bit and then I'll do it. So I think it's really important. I think the national curriculum requires that climate change is taught through science, through geography, and through citizenship. But of course, the national curriculum is a tiny, thin spine. And it's really important, actually, that we retain the flexibility for teachers to wrap things around that spine well. And it absolutely doesn't it does not hold anyone back from wrapping climate much more broadly through other subjects in the curriculum. I think the risk is if we stop the national curriculum from being a relatively thin spine of the things you absolutely have to do, then teachers will tell us, as colleagues did over there, that we are asking unreasonable things of them. And so what we're looking at the moment, as part, and you'll see this in the strategy later on, is to show model schemes of work, model ways of teaching that help people use more of that and do more of that across the curriculum. But we'd like to do that more through those essentially helpful pieces of guidance rather than requirements that force people to add more and more and more into that kind of thin backbone of the curriculum. I say that, though, it's really important to realise the curriculum already says you must teach this through science, through geography and through citizenship.
Yeah, all I was going to say, one really important question, and actually the sustainability and climate change strategy document that we're launching later is actually effectively a draft. And what we're going to do is work with teachers, with school leaders, to turn it into the finished product and then launch it in April of next year, because we actually want that input into this process. And of course, we've also launched the new model primary science curriculum, which I think is equally important in terms of offering primary school teachers that sort of the high quality resources that they need to enrich young minds with evidence-based science around this subject.
Yes, I completely agree, and I think we don't need curriculum change to be able to do this across the subjects, and I agree that it covers so many different subject areas, and we'd love to see more done. And I think just slightly on a broad point, as scientists, many of us stand ready to help, and ensure that the resources that teachers have access to are up to date with the latest science and accurate. And so we need educators and scientists involved in that, and that's where the University of Reading and many other institutions are very happy to be involved with this.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Ed. Blimey, I think somebody may have died upstairs. Daniel.
I completely concur with the gentleman's question, and I think that whilst it might be something that's nationally taught in schools, once we go into college and we specialise in our own A-level subjects, the people who've chosen subjects like humanities, politics, history, they become completely excluded from any sort of climate updates. In biology, like just last term, I'm learning about ecosystems, succession, biotic, abiotic factors, and when I'm discussing them with my friends and my other friends who don't study, they're just like completely bamboozled by what I'm talking about. And this is something that we need to focus on, so that it's not just climate change isn't just considered a specialist subject, it's considered a universal thing that everyone needs to be educated on.
Thank you. Thank you. I think that's important, and actually that's why the rooting in citizenship matters. It's not related to just science or just geography. It's something we all need to grow up as citizens, isn't it? I think that's really. Thank you. Can we get the mic down this end? Sorry. Thanks very much.
Hi. Sorry. Hi. So I'm Anna Robb. I'm here with the Climate Fresk, and I'm really, really excited to hear all these comments and questions about your Climate Leaders Award, because we actually have a tool that can help you. I've been training teachers, UK-based and world-based, with a tool that we developed, a workshop, which is science-based, based on IPCC reports, and based on the model Head, Heart, and Hands. So first we learn about the causes and consequences of climate change, then we discuss how we feel about it, and then finally we talk about what can we do about it, so real actions. And I know, and I was particularly touched with the teacher testimony, because I know that this tool makes teachers' life easier. And I've seen teachers absolutely falling in love with the workshop and saying, history teachers, English teachers, science teachers coming together, doing the workshop all together with their pupils, and then, each go into their own subjects and then developing the special themes further, because we have, we're covering everything in the workshop. So I would really love to see a global collaboration between Climate Fresk, because we are already, so we grew from 0 3 years ago to 250 participants in our workshops. We've got over 10,000 facilitators around the world, and we have senior pupils who can become facilitators. It's very easy, scalable, and we're hoping that it will soon be in my own country curriculum, Croatia. So let us help you to bring this wonderful tool into your Climate Leaders Award as well.
Thank you very much. A bit more network effect, Secretary of State.
Phenomenal. Come and see us.
Thank you. My team will be in touch with you. Thank you. Any other questions? Yes, thank you.
Manveer Gill, Environmental Association for Universities and Colleges. Thank you. This is really inspiring and quite exciting. Perhaps it's not for this showcase, but I'm curious to know what the crossover is with universities and what your plans are there, particularly given how influential they can be across their communities, across research. their operational scale as well. No doubt you've got some plans there. Just curious to know if you've got any information you could share with us.
Thank you. I mean, I think the simple answer is we see universities as absolutely part of these proposals, so not excluded from them. And I think there'll be a whole series of ways in which they can be involved, both using their own estate, young people who want to be leaders in universities, and indeed universities recognising the Climate Leaders Award in people who come up from schools will be really important. But I think also, actually, as we think about some of the activity that will go on, the biodiversity mapping and so on, the expertise of people in universities like Ed and others, and indeed actually I think students in universities who want to support schools in doing this well, I can see really rich collaboration building. I want to say one more point actually on the equity issue raised earlier. So what if you're a school with small grounds? I think one of the really powerful things about the National Education Nature Park idea is the concept that the whole of it belongs to everyone in it at some level, so that you have access not just to the information and the data about your bit, but that you can gear the bit that you're doing against the information, data and understanding that is coming out of the whole of the National Education Nature Park. And that gives both children but also university students access to the most extraordinary potential resource for information, for development, for learning, for all of those powerful effects that come from having outstanding data to apply to tricky problems.
I mean, we're very lucky at the University of Reading. We have a giant green campus which has got green flag status, and you know, I know that the local nursery takes their children walks around the campus and on the lakes, and so that's fantastic to see. And I know that we map the biodiversity in our campus, and so I'm sure there'll be plenty of opportunities for local schools to get involved, as well as the nurseries.
Noor, did you want to come in?
Yeah, I actually have a question.
Brilliant.
So I've just done my God DOV award, and on the expedition there was one working class black kid, and the rest of us were white. With this award, how do you plan to kind of stop that being the same thing, it being the same crowd? Because I know certainly within my school that the conversations about climate change happen within the same kind of people from the same background and of the same colour.
That is a fantastic question, Noor. And we're going to obviously work with the Duke of Edinburgh Awards and the Prince's Trust and others and take the best learnings, but also see how we can improve it. And I think I go back and say to you that if we build this and build it for all our nurseries, our schools, our colleges, our universities, then you really begin to get that sort of diversity of thought, that richness into the system. There are no easy answers other than to make it really engaging, right? If people feel that it's a resource that's worth using, then you will begin to overcome some of those barriers around ethnicity and demographic.
Yeah, if I could, I mean, it's an incredibly important question. I mean, it's the question really about how do we make sure that this is actually for everybody? And I think part of it is actually making sure the way in which we are now developing it is developed with those voices from everybody. So actually it's not just a group of people over here who are developing, expecting it to be work for people over here. And that's what I think we're trying to do. We at the Natural History Museum, but I know a lot of the other sort of supporters working with the department, we have a youth advisory panel with young people from all different sorts of backgrounds, and it's getting their voices in to say, how can this work for you, or how can we create and make this work together? Otherwise, you're right, it's just going to be for the same people all over again rather than for everybody. So that's the challenge we've got to rise to.
Thank you very much indeed. I think I'm going to have to draw us to a halt now because we're running out of time, and soon people will come to try and kick us out of the pavilion to have their next event. Colleagues, I wanted to thank everybody here for your participation. I clearly want to thank our absolutely outstanding panel, Secretary of State, Ed, Claire, Noor and Daniel. But I also want to thank the audience because, as the Secretary of State has observed, this is one of those ideas that starts to cluster things around it. And we've seen that in the room. And I'm hugely grateful for all of those who've come here today and said, how can I help? How can I be part of this? That is the spirit that will make this thing fly and flourish. And it's been absolutely fantastic, actually just genuinely hugely inspired. I've been inspired by the panel, but I've been inspired by the audience too. And I'm enormously grateful to all of you here today. Please do join us in the Penny Fan room at 4 o'clock. You will see education and environment ministers coming together, I think for the first time. to have an international conversation about climate and education. You can come, it's open, and we'd really like to carry on the conversation, not just about these two elements of the strategy, but about the wider set of questions around education and environment. So thank you very much indeed. The next stage is going to be collaborative development of these initiatives for exactly the kinds of reasons we've been hearing about, to try and make sure that we talk to the people that we're trying to reach and hear from them about what is going to work, that we talk to partners who can work with us to make this go better. So again, we'll be inviting you all to come and join us in that longer term conversation as we build and construct this together. Thank you so much for your time. Panel, thank you very much indeed.